Ida. Good morning to all the teachers attending to the third ELT Congress 2021 Lima edition, organized by Escuela de Educación Superior Pedagógica Pública Monterrey.
We would like to remind you that this event is being transmitted on YouTube. If you have any doubt or you want to ask any question, you can write to the following email: tercercongreso@ipnm.edu.pe.
Following with the program today from 9 o'clock to 10:30, we are going to have the second panel. Then from 10:30 to 11:30, we are having the simultaneous workshops. After that, from 11:30 to 11:45, we are going to have a 15-minute break. Finally, at 11:45, we will meet each other again for the last presentation and the closing remarks.
So, it is time to receive Magali Ruas, coordinator of the English Language Department, and Ximena Castro, a student from the English Language Department, as the moderators of the second panel.
Thank you very much, Aileen and Villasar. Good morning, everyone, to this panel this morning, okay? With great pleasure, let me introduce our speakers from British Council and Rilo Andes. Mrs. Mary Shaw, a representative from U.S. Embassy and Rilo Andes. Mary is a deep believer in learning empathy, creativity, and curiosity. Is a fellow of the Institute for Collaborative Learning and founder of Centro Espiral Maná in Costa Rica. She has been teaching language English and Spanish for over 30 years and has been designing and implementing educational projects in Latin America for over 20 years. Mary has been a TESOL certificate trainer and trainer of trainers since 2001. Ximena is going to introduce Mr. Robert Carvajal, representative from British Council.
Okay, Carvajal holds a degree in education from Instituto Nacional Pedagógico Monterrico and a master's degree in educational neuroscience from Birkbeck College and UCL. He is currently working as an English teacher at a private institution in Lima.
Our next speaker also is from the British Council. She is Roxana Carolina Perca. Ximena?
Perca holds a licentiate in Science of Education with major in foreign languages from Jorge Basadre Graham National University, Peru. She also holds a master in linguistics from the Federal University of Santa Catarina, Brazil. She is currently working as a teacher at the Peruvian Ministry of Education.
For this roundtable, we have 3 moments. In the first part, okay, all the speakers will have 10 minutes to present their ideas about the topic, managing emotions in times of remote teaching. In the second part, we will answer the questions from the participants. And finally, each speaker will have 5 minutes to share their final thoughts. Let's start with Mary Shaw, representative from the British Council, from Rilo Andes, sorry. We're going to start with Mr. Carvajal. He's going to start with his presentation. Okay, British Council is going to start first.
Thank you, Ms. Magali.
Thank you, Robert, for coming. Thank you.
can you see my screen?
Yes.
Good, okay. Thank you very much for the introduction. It gives the British Council great pleasure to present once again at the third ELT Congress organized by Pedagógico Monterrico. Today, my partner and I will be discussing some plausible and feasible classroom interventions to keep our learning environment safe, especially in the context of stress. So we will be first discussing what stress is, how it may affect learning, and finally posit potential recommendations on how to deal with this in the virtual classroom. So I would like to start this presentation by stating that almost everybody in the session has once experienced some symptoms of stress in their lives, that is elevated heart rates, sweating, or even a dry mouth before, during, and after an exam or a presentation like this. And we might have considered stress something negative or something to be avoided if our students are to arrive at learning. However, in my opinion, I guess the picture may seem much, much broader, because these bodily changes may respond to our capacity to react to some physical danger. And what's more, stress may be associated with how much students pay and sustain attention in the learning environment. So what is actually stress? If, dear colleagues, you just Google the word up on the internet, you may get something like this. Stress being the feeling of getting overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. It may be important to point out that the meanings of stress may vary among different researchers in different fields of expertise. For example, as for a psychological and neuroscience perspective, we've got short-term stress, which respond to situations that may have a beginning and a clear ending point. For example, when we ask our students to present in front of the class, when we want them to turn on the cameras for some presentation, and we've got long-term stress, that is situations that may have no clear ending point, such as depression, poverty, or eating disorders. So our bodies and brains respond to stressors in different countless ways. I'm not going too much in the literature, but when we respond to stressors, there is changes in brain activity resulting in arousal, alertness, and attention. And thus, these changes may alter the way we pay attention and learn a second language, for example, in different environments, especially sustained attention, the relationship between sustained attention and second language acquisition. And most of us, dear colleagues, may be familiar with the term cortisol, this chemical whose effects suppress the immune system response. And that may be the reason why students sometimes report cold sores, high blood pressure before or during an exam. You might be familiar with the phrase like, teacher, I can't take the exam. Teacher, I feel really bad, me siento mal. So these situations may respond to how they react to stressors. And now we might be wondering how stress influences learning capacities. How much stress is stressful? And is some stress good for learning or not? So I could say that research has posed that learning can take place in children between under-aroused and over-aroused conditions, that is, intermediate levels of arousal. Evidence suggests that, for example, when looking out for targets in an activity among multiple instructors, under-aroused children fail to attend to the target. That is what we want students to get, compared to over-aroused children who attend to targets, but distracted as well, thus anyway fail the task. So for us, the teachers, setting an activity in which children do not feel so much stress can be quite plausible and feasible. and therefore they can develop certain skills. If a student is experiencing high levels of stress, for example, certain executive functions such as working memory, inhibition, and attention may be impaired. So how can we actually translate these findings into practical recommendations for the classroom / classroom interventions to go with children's stress? How can we actually bridge, the gap between neuroscience, psychology, and education? I would like to emphasize again the fact that children respond to stresses differently, and that may be to different factors. We have seen short-term stress and we have seen long-term stress factors. And one challenge for the teacher may be having kids who sometimes under or even overstimulated peers in the classroom, and thus that may reduce effective learning, since again, at high levels of stress, for example, children may get more distracted by distractors in the environment, thus making this a little bit complicated for them to control their attention. For example, it can be really difficult for them to develop their inhibition control. So how to intervene to avoid this negative impact of stress, especially in the classroom? I could focus on two today: interventions that focus on environmental factors and those that focus on physiological factors. We have reason to believe that noisy environments affect children's development, and high levels of stress may explain this relationship. Thus, for us, for teachers, reducing noise within the learning environment can be quite effective for some children. And what I mean by noise is not something related to loudness. What I mean by noise is people passing by, a phone ringing in the middle of the class, having lots of distractors around the kids. What is more, it is really important to point out the way stress influences how children interact with the classroom, with the environment, especially in the context of a possible return in March 2022. Because again, if high levels of stress may prevent children from deploying attentional focus, then reducing visual distractions may help the kids focus on sustained attention and thus improve performance on task. Nonetheless, we may not draw conclusions that easily, because it may be arguable to suggest that a simulating classroom may be best for children experiencing high levels of stress. I guess further research should be conducted. I would say longitudinal research should be conducted on children and adults. On the other side of the coin, stress may be alleviated by physiological factors, and conducting, for example, breathing exercises may be of great help in the classroom. Research on adults especially suggests that slow breathings can alter stress physiology, thus maximizing heart rate variability, which is definitely associated with lower stress. So you might be wondering why not running breathing exercises in the classroom if we know that this works. However, once again, I may not draw conclusions quite easily, because although deep breathing may help learners, research may be further conducted to consider the relationship between learning and breathing plausible or feasible. So in the section that follows, my panel will provide us with some feasible techniques which may help maximize learning in the virtual classroom. Thank you very much for your attention, Ms. Magali, and dear colleagues.
Okay. Good morning, dear colleagues. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Is it okay? Okay. Thank you very much. I am glad to introduce the second part of this presentation, which is entitled Mindfulness in the EFL Classroom, Strategies to Control Stress. First of all, mindfulness can be defined as the ability of paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. From this concept, we can clearly distinguish three key components: self-regulation of attention, self-awareness, and self-compassion. In other words, mindfulness is to be conscious of the place, the moment, and put value on the activity. Teaching English is a social practice in which communication is the start. So it's relevant to promote a safe, warm, and healthy environment that appreciates the students' feelings and empower them to use their creativity and intelligence. All in all, in a mindful class, teachers help students build meaning, reflect on their learning, and make use of their learning. Secondly, I will present some strategies based on mindful skills. The first strategy is cloud breathing mediation technique, in which you visualize those feelings and emotions that no longer serve you and let them go in the form of clouds. Let's practice. So first, look at me, look at my eyes, my nose, my mouth, and think about those emotions, maybe sadness, stress, that you don't want to feel now, and let them go as you exhale, okay? Inhale and visualize. Exhale and let them go. The last one. Thank you very much. The second strategy is active pauses. Virtual classes during the pandemic have reduced the amount of physical activities students used to do during breaks and physical education. Instead, they spend long hours in front of the computer. So you can select a set of stretching exercises to practice regularly during classes or when you feel students need de-stress. For example, shoulder stretch, side turn, and head circles. Let's practice some of them. First, it's important to inhale and exhale. And now put your hands on your shoulder and gently make circles. Breathing is important. Now, lean your head on the right and then on the left as you inhale and exhale. Also move your head to the right and then to the left. Inhaling and exhaling. Thank you very much. And we have the third strategy, that is questioning. Make students conscious of what they are learning by asking them critical questions like, how might this help you? Or questions that involve their metacognition. What are you doing to learn? Or questions that involve their feelings, like, did you learn anything that surprised you? Collaborative work is important to share and also discuss and generate ideas to answer these questions. In a virtual environment, you can use tools like Jamboard, Mentimeter, or Zoom rooms to answer these questions. Finally, about this strategy, I want to present some techniques like the KWL chart. KWL chart. In the first column, you have this question, what I already know. then what I want to know, and finally, what I have learned. The second is the fist to 5. This is a kind of survey to know how well students are doing during classes. For example, 5 fingers represent I completely understand. 4, I mostly understand. 3, I understand pretty well. 2, I need more practice and examples. 1, I need help. And fist, I don't understand at all. This is important to reduce noise in your virtual classes. Finally, use a positive language. Use the power of words to celebrate what students can do with English. For example, what I like about your work is, I am very proud of you because you are getting better every day. You have improved a lot using. This is particularly important when you give feedback for students' oral or written products. Let me finish with this Paulo Freire's word. Education is an act of love and thus an act of courage. Thank you very much for your attention, and these are our references.
Thank you very much to our speakers from the British Council. Okay, what we have to highlight here is that stress is a positive thing that we have to use in classroom, okay, and we can modify it using mindfulness techniques. Thank you very much, British Council. Thank you, Mr. Carvajal and Ms. Sesperka. Now, I cordially invite Mrs. Mary Scholl to continue with her presentation of this day.
Good morning, Magali. It's so nice to be with you. Thank you all so much. Let me turn my light on.
Good morning, Mary. Welcome to our roundtable.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be with you all. And I want to thank the Pedagógico and thank the U.S. Embassy for the opportunity to be with you all today. I see we have 79 people here in the Zoom room, and I think we might have some people on YouTube or Facebook as well, maybe, I'm not sure. And I really want to also thank Robert and Roxana for your beautiful presentations. It's exciting to see that that we're really taking stress into consideration. I think the choice for this theme, for this roundtable today and this work today is very important. We need to really think about the stress that our students are under and the stress that we are under. So I actually, without knowing it, also chose to work with mindfulness. So it was great to be able to listen to you, Roxana. So I quickly changed some slides around and I chose some other mindfulness activities to share with you. Because mindfulness, as Robert was talking about the different kinds of stress and the impact of stress, mindfulness is like, for me, the first response to stress is to learn how to pause, slow down, and be present, to just describe what is. That's the first response to any stress that's going on. So I think that it's really wonderful that that you shared that, and I'm hoping that these other activities that I've chosen will be of use as well in terms of managing our emotions. I want to share with you a metaphor that I use when I think about my emotions. A lot of times people think about wanting to control their emotions, and I don't think about control. I think about it as like I'm riding a wave. So if I don't know how to surf, but if I could surf, it would be like surfing on a wave. The emotion is like the wave in the ocean, and it's powerful and it's moving. and it comes to the shore and ends. And so emotions, it's not, so I can't control those waves in the ocean, but I can ride them. If I know how to surf, I could ride them. And so learning to manage my emotions is like learning how to surf that wave of what the emotion is. So mindfulness is one of the first tools for learning to surf my emotions. And I want to practice with you all just a minute. What one of our habits that we do in our classes, we call it silence together, space to arrive. So I want to invite you all to join me, and I'm going to give us a bell. Let's get something on my bell. I'm going to ring a bell, and hopefully I have this bell right here with me. Hopefully when you hear the bell, you'll feel a little bit of the vibration in your there we go. You'll feel some of the vibration, and then we're going to have just a minute of silence. And I want you to notice what you do with your silence. Does your brain spin with thoughts, or are you able to just relax into it? Or is there something else that's happening inside of you? Do you notice that you're a little uncomfortable with something? What do you do with 1 minute of silence? Okay. At the end of the minute, I'm going to ring the bell again. I'm going to ring it 2 times in the beginning, 2 times at the end. And then we'll just sort of see what's this silence together, space to arrive. How does that feel? What do you do? So I'm curious, and I don't know if the chat is disabled. Actually, I should check in with that. Is the chat enabled for people, and can you all write? How did that feel? How did it feel to hear the bell? How did it feel to have some silence? And also maybe to see a picture, or to have this time and space together? Let me double check. Something here. He says relax. I'm not sure if you're able to write. Maybe it's just the hosts. I don't know. But Roxana and Magali, thank you so much. Relaxed, aligned.
Nice.
Nice. Great. One of the things that I do in my classes, Jimena writes peace. One of the things I do is I take in the beginning of class, and sometimes in the middle of classes as well, we take some time to come together and just be quiet. And it's just a minute, but it gives us some space to arrive again, right? And some space to become peaceful. A lot of times as an English teacher, I get in and I want to work. We got to do things. We have a lot of things to cover. Come on, let's go. But sometimes we need to just pause. So one of the techniques that I'm offering you is this 1 minute of silence together, space to arrive. So that's one technique, and I hope you find it useful. I hope you try it. You don't have to have a bell. You could do something else. You could just announce it and get started, but there's something about having a bell that sort of signifies a beginning and an end. So yeah, I'm a fan of bells, but you don't have to have a bell. So Roxana told us about mindfulness, and she gave us a really nice definition by John Kabat-Zinn that I really like. This is another definition that I also really like by a teacher named Meena Srinivasan. And she says, mindfulness is paying attention to your experience in real time with kindness and curiosity. Kindness and curiosity. And so this space, time together, space to arrive, is creating this place where you can pay attention to yourself. Right? So often our students are either trying to figure out what we want them to do, or they've got something they feel like they need to do. And our attention is often not on just being curious or kind to ourselves. And that's a fundamental key in lowering stress. There's a lot of benefits, which Roxana also already talked about, in terms of developing your self-awareness, being able to have better relationships and manage them, having more social awareness of what's around us, and the emotional balance. There have been a lot of studies about the impact of mindfulness. So I hope at the very least, after this session, you're just curious and you go learn more. I would like to share a little video with you that is my mindfulness teacher. It's the sloth. And I just want you to enjoy watching it here for a minute. Let's see if I can do this. Does that come into the screen? Can you see it okay? Can you see the sloth okay?
Yes, we can see it, but we cannot hear the sound.
That's okay. I just wanted to have you watch the sloth for a minute. Oh, it slowed down a little bit. Let's watch it again. This sloth, I have sloths here near me here in Costa Rica. And they move slowly and intentionally, taking their time. And sometimes we need to slow down. And so I like to think about the sloth as, let's see. I like to think about the sloth as sort of one of my reminders of how to be slow and move slowly. So that's one of my reminders. I want to do another activity with you all about thinking. Because part of the reason we get stressed out is that we think and 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 think, and we don't stop thinking, and we think and think and think and think and think some more. And part of the reason we get stressed out is we think our thoughts are always true, and they're not. They're just thoughts that are in our head going through. And so I want to offer you 2 quotes to think about thinking, because we want our students to think, right? We want them to learn English. We want them to think. And we also need to think a little bit about how intentional they are with their thinking. So we have this quote from Eckhart Tolle: the most decisive event in your life is when you discover that you are not your thoughts or emotions, that you can be present as the awareness behind your thoughts and emotions. Just becoming aware that I am not my thoughts gives me power to work with my thoughts. And our students need that. Our teachers need that. Our students need that. So, and what Deepak Chopra says, the goal is to be the observer of your thoughts and not let your thoughts control you. When your thoughts are controlling you, that creates a lot of unnecessary, unhealthy stress. So we need to learn how to observe our thoughts and not let our thoughts control us. And one of the things that we often do, well, here's some things that I'm curious if you've experienced. This would show us that our thoughts are controlling us. Sometimes I can't stop myself from thinking. My brain is just going and going and going. Sometimes I try to be present, but thoughts keep flooding my brain. Sometimes my mind doesn't stop. I jump from one thing to another and I can't seem to focus. I often find myself thinking about the past and replaying conversations over and over again. I think about it, or I'm always worried about the future and thinking about the future and planning for the future and plan A, plan B, plan C. All of these are when our thoughts are actually controlling us. Thinking is good, but if I can't stop myself from thinking, that's stressful. Remembering the past is useful, but if I can't stop myself from focusing on the past, that's not useful. Planning for the future is useful, but if I don't stop planning for the future, I'm always thinking about the future, that's not useful. So these are ways that our thinking is controlling us. I'm going to stop sharing here for just 1 second. And I want to invite you, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to ring the bell. And for 1 minute, I want you to count how many thoughts you have. So every single thought. So by thinking about how many thoughts do I have, that's a thought. What time is lunch? That's a thought. I'm kind of hungry. I wish I had breakfast. That's another thought, right? Just count how many thoughts you have in 1 minute. And I'm just going to be really curious about what you come up with. So I'm going to set my timer here. And let's go. Keep counting. How many thoughts are you having? Count your thoughts. It's okay. Any number's okay. Keep counting. That was 1 minute. How many thoughts did you have in 1 minute? Please write it in the chat. 10. Thanks, Roxanne. Six, 12, 9. The important thing is that you're noticing how many thoughts you have. Right? That's the important thing. And then that begins to give you the ability to be aware of your thinking. And as the more aware I become of my thinking, the more I can ride that wave of my emotions and of my thinking and say, oh, there it is. It's, what am I going to do? How am I going to respond to my thinking? So that is one activity that I think is really useful. I would love to share one more activity, but I'm completely lost on how much time I have. So I'm wondering, Magali, if
you can
could help me
continue.
with-
You can continue, Mary.
Okay, great. Thanks. So these are the instructions. I'll send my slides to you all. These are the instructions for counting our thoughts. And I'm curious, also just asking you, how was it for you to notice and count your thoughts? And if anybody would like to unmute and share, that would be great. Or if you want to write in the chat, that's great too. How was it for you to just take a minute and notice your thoughts? Any responses? Roxana, I feel outside your mind. Yeah, beautiful. Like observing. Eileen says, I was surprised. Every exterior sound reminded you of something. Oh, that's beautiful, Eileen. Yeah, we start to notice how much we can notice. Magali feels conscious of your thinking. Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for that. I want to share one other activity with you, a couple here. Ah, she says connected. Thank you. If I'm wanting my students, if I feel like we're really stressed out and we want to bring our stress level down, we can try mindfulness 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I'd like to try this with you first. So I'd like you to sit again, just sort of notice how you're sitting. You might want to wiggle a little bit so you can feel your body again. It's also nice to stretch and move. I want you to just sort of notice, first of all, how you're sitting. Are your feet crossed? Are they both on the floor? Can you sit in a way that you feel strong? And then we're going to start with mindfulness 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. For the first thing I want you to do is just start to breathe and notice your breathing. And start to look around you. Look around and can you see 5 things either that you haven't noticed before or you haven't noticed in a long time? I'm in my office filled with things. I'm looking around. Choose 5 things just in your mind. And then come back and just breathe for a minute and remember those 5 things. Next, what are 4 things that you can feel? Can you feel the pressure of your feet on the floor, or can you feel the tips of your fingers? Maybe your fan goes to your face and you can feel a light, fuzzy feeling on your face. Sometimes our faces are fuzzy with a little bit of light hair. Or maybe nothing, maybe it's very smooth. Maybe I can feel the metal of my bell. Or I feel my coffee cup. What are 4 things that you can feel? Pick them up, touch them. Feel the hair. Next, what are 3 things you can hear? Notice all the background noises that you've been filtering out from your attention. What can you hear? What are 2 things you can smell? Sometimes I smell my skin, or I can smell my coffee. What do you smell? Oh my God, I heard a bird singing. Smell roses. Oh, how lovely is that? Beautiful. And what's one thing you can taste? Notice what taste is in your mouth right now. Water in a glass. Oh, chocolate. I don't know, Eileen, I'm curious if you're smelling chocolate or tasting chocolate. I hope they're both enjoyable. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What impacted this exercise? The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. What impact did it have on you? How are you feeling right now? Take a minute, scan your body, check in with yourself with kindness and curiosity. Check in with yourself. How does it feel? Do you notice any changes, any shifts? Good and relaxed, here and now. Well connected, beautiful. Focus, nice. In the present, beautiful. These feelings, connected, focused, in the present, relaxed, these are going to help us when we're feeling too much stress, and our students when they're feeling a stress, to help us bring ourselves back to a slightly or maybe more less stressed state. And this is not something, this is something you can do every day or a few times every class. You could choose different mindfulness activities, or you could even do the same one. It'd be interesting to see how over time, if they do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 every class, if they change what they notice, or if they get tired of noticing and then they notice their tiredness. But it's a really nice mindfulness activity that also works to reduce stress. Magali, I have more to share if you want, or I can also stop, whatever you guys would like.
If you want, you can have 3 more extra minutes.
3 extra minutes, good, thank you. I have one thing I was hoping to share. And I'm going to do this. This is called an activity just like me. This is a mindfulness and empathy activity. And you know, in time of COVID, when we're stressed out, relationships are hard. So in this activity, I'm going to actually ask you to, you can close your eyes. If you want to read, you can read. But I'd like you to think about somebody that you might have had a conflict with. Somebody who's challenging. And I'm going to read some sentences, and I want you to repeat them either out loud because you're muted or in your mind, right? It's called Just Like Me. So take this person that you're thinking of that maybe you've had a little bit of conflict with, or somebody who has annoyed you a little bit. And I want you to put a picture of them, and I want you to imagine that you're sitting next to them, right? They're sitting next to you. And I want you to think, this person has a body and mind just like me. This person has feelings, emotions, and thoughts just like me. This person has experienced physical and emotional pain and suffering just like me. This person at some time has been sad, disappointed, angry, or hurt, just like me. This person has felt unworthy or inadequate, just like me. This person worries and is frightened sometimes, just like me. This person has longed for friendship, just like me. This person is learning about life, just like me. This person wants to be caring and kind to others, just like me. This person wants to be content with what life has given them, just like me. This person wishes to be free from pain and suffering, just like me. This person wishes to be safe and healthy, just like me. This person wishes to be happy, just like me. This person wishes to be loved, just like me. I wish this person to have the strength, resources, and social support they need to navigate the difficulties in life with ease. And I wish this for myself. I wish this person to be free from pain and suffering. And I wish this for myself. I wish this person to be peaceful and happy. And I wish this for myself. I wish this person to be loved, because this person is a fellow human being, just like me. I see here 96 names and many all in white with black. I just want to say, I'm a human being just like you, and you're a human being just like me. When we start to recognize our humanity and our students' humanity, and we include that as part of our work in our classrooms, the stress goes down. I encourage all of you to consider that and see what can you do to bring mindfulness and presence and humanity into the classroom. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you for letting me take so much time.
Thank you very much, dear Mary, for this great presentation. Okay. And now I cordially invite all the speakers to activate their cameras, because we are going to start with the questions our participants just wrote on our chat box. Okay, and we remind you to write your questions on the chat, please. We have some questions, and Ximena is going to start asking, okay, the first question. Ximena.
Yes. How can we incorporate mindfulness into school programs?
Any of you? Could you please activate your mic? Okay. Okay, Miss Roxana Perca.
Actually, we have some in basic education, in secondary education, we need to practice some active poses. So, esto está en la norma. So one of these strategies could be mindfulness, as breathing techniques, some stretching exercises in class. So maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes when we feel students need, because we can see they are sometimes moving or their eyes are telling something. So there is when we need to stop and practice some exercises. And also when we are introducing them to read or to listen, they need to be calm here and now. So maybe some minutes of breathing. Okay, students, look at me, and now put your arms, raise your arms, or move your shoulders or your head can help to connect the students. And then immediately start with the listening and reading. Thank you very much, Magali.
Thank you, Roxana. Mr. Carvajal.
Thank you very much. I guess it also has to do with a well-being department working in unison with the teachers, especially for the ones who are home teachers, as myself. We have 20 minutes every single day, and I guess it's really important. It's really important for us to know that we don't know how mentally healthy kids attend classes, and sometimes they have maths in the afternoon. They have English, science, maths. So we really have to know these kids. And I guess most of us have really bonded during this pandemic even more with the kids. So the psychology department, I guess, is doing such a great job alongside with the teachers as well. So yeah, that is what I had to say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mary, would you like to add something else?
I think that incorporating mindfulness in our school programs is really important. It's something that's happening a lot in the United States. I'm originally from the United States, although I live in Costa Rica now. I've been here for 20 years. And there's a couple of different things that we can do. One is, on a personal level, teachers can practice mindfulness. In order for us to incorporate it, it can't be something, it's not a lecture activity. Teachers have to do it themselves and they have to believe in it. So I can't force you to believe in it. You have to have an experience and try it out and continually use it and see how it benefits you as a teacher, so that you can then start to incorporate it with your students. So the first thing is, for me, it's teachers learning it and teachers exploring whether they like it or not. And if they do, incorporating it. So that's what I could sort of consider like a bottom-up possibility. Top-down, I think our policy, on a policy level, we need to see how our educational policies support our mental well-being, mental and physical well-being. And it could be included actually in a policy that that mindfulness is part of our mental well-being, our emotional well-being as well. So I sort of think that change has to happen sort of from top down and bottom up. It also could be that in a school, if the administrator believes in it, there are programs that you can do, that you can look into to incorporate it. And there's lots of activities, there's lots of books, there's so much out there now about mindfulness and also about pro-social skills, that I think that even though we're English teachers, I think we have space to include this. And in my classroom, I can include it with habits. After I believe it, there's certain things that you can do, like the space to arrive, silence together, space to arrive. Or every 15 minutes, I have my bell on. Every 15 minutes, take a minute of quiet. See how that works, you know? So there's a lot of habits I can involve. And there's also, so it's my own personal practice, the policy, either school or even regional, national policy. And then there's also just what I put into my classroom. That's what I see. Thank you.
Next question. Ximena, could you please help us with that?
Yes, our next question is, how can we transform a school culture through mindfulness?
Feel free, any of you.
By practicing it. It's kind of like, just do it. And, you know, be curious about it. I think we can't force it on people. I can't say to you, be mindful now, go do it. It's not that kind of activity. It's got to be something that people are invited to try it, and to really, it's not something you try once either. It's like building a muscle. Like if I'm lifting weights, I want to get stronger. I need to lift weights starting with something light, and then with lots of repetition, and then I gradually get heavier and you know, can go longer. So mindfulness is the same sort of thing. I think of it as a muscle that I need to start light, practice regularly, and stay open to it being an invitation, to not force it, because there's some people are going to say, yeah, that's crazy, I'm not going to do that. And the best answer to that is, okay, but I still invite you to try it. You know, I invite you to try it. And I think if we keep this invitational stance, even the biggest resistors will hopefully someday at least try it and see that perhaps it works for them. So those are some ideas. Thank you.
Okay. Rosanna?
Okay, maybe we can include mindfulness as the strategy in a variety of activities school do during the regular, when we are in school, when we deal with the students. And in fact, this is not new. Teachers apply these practices like breathing, relaxation, in kindergarten, in secondary school also. I used to practice this kind of relaxation techniques, even I didn't know it was mindfulness. But exploring and reading, I realized that there is other teachers in other countries apply these strategies. That I wanted to add, Magali. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Robert.
Thank you very much. I would like to emphasize how powerful mindfulness is, and all the activities Mary was stating really work in the classroom. I guess the good thing about these strategies is that once learned, if the teachers know, if the teachers feel good, I guess that can be used at any time in the class and at any time at school. I know it's quite difficult for the school or even for policymakers to incorporate this in the curriculum, even the national curriculum, because that may need a little more research, but we can do it. And I guess if we know that works, I guess we can definitely apply it in the classroom.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert. Ximena?
Yes, we remind everybody to write their questions in the chat box, please.
I have an extra question for you, okay? Which areas of our brain can be affected by stress during this remote teaching? Is it important to take care of our brains? What do you think about that? Okay, Robert, and then Roxana, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I guess some preliminary studies and some empirical studies has suggest that some parts of the brain may or are suggested to get impaired because of the high stress they may be feeling. I have to point out the fact that students' response to stress may be directly related to how they feel rather than how stressful the situation actually is. It's like, that's why students respond to stress very differently. I know that there is some relationship between high levels of stress and impairments in working memory, especially attention. And I have to say that there's a strong correlation between attention and second language acquisition, for example, but that doesn't mean that stress may be counted as part of the variance. So there should be different factors going on. Stress may be one. That's why I guess in the classroom, we should definitely tackle the stress, especially in the context of COVID-19. Definitely, there has been quite some research about the prefrontal area being impaired. Yeah, there is the cerebellum being impaired. We don't know if that really has a correlation with second language acquisition, especially, but some certain executive functions may definitely get impaired. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
Okay, I just want to add
Yes,
that I, as a teacher, can work with a student who is sad, who is anxious, or who feels anger. So when I perceive that, I need to stop because he's or she is not going to learn. So I need to do something, try strategies that help them to calm down and to feel better. And then I can work. That's all, Magali. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you so much for your answers. And I would like to remind the public that we have enabled the chat box so you can write your questions.
I just want to add and echo in what Robert was
Yes,
saying.
Mary.
Just that, you know, stress can actually kill brain cells, chronic stress. And it has a shrinking effect on the prefrontal cortex, which is the area that's responsible for memory and learning. So if we have chronic stress, like there's some stress that can help us learn, but chronic heavy stress is actually going to make it harder to learn. And then it also could increase the size of the amygdala, which is the part of our brain that is responding to it, you know, and makes our brain more receptive to stress and whether we're going to fight it or run from it or hide from it or freeze. So there is a really interesting connection between stress and brain functioning that is really important for us to learn about and take into consideration.
Okay, and we thank you so much for your answers. And we have a question in the chat box. It says, why not Minedu at pro-social skills for teachers on Peru Educa platforms?
Yeah, this is something that we have to discuss later with Mrs. Mesa in her last presentation, okay? And with this, here we have an extra question.
Yes, it says, hello everybody, for Marisol, can you share about this syndrome of the person who takes care of another person?
Sure. So two things. I just want to also respond to the pro-social skills for teachers on Peru Educa platform. And this yesterday and today specifically has made me think, oh, I think that would be so beautiful. And it's exciting to see the interest in it. We've been doing a project. Some of you are here, thank you, who are in the project we're doing on leadership and communities of practice. And we've included pro-social skills in the work because I think leaders need to be very aware of pro-social skills and practice them themselves to be an effective leader. And I think that if we wanted to add it, I would be happy to support you all in that in any way. I keep thinking about how important it is. And for the people, the syndrome of the person who takes care of another person. I'm guessing you're thinking about this tendency that we have as a teacher, a parent, a caretaker, to want to fix other people's problems or challenges. I'm guessing that, Fernando. If I'm wrong, please let me know. But this idea that my job is to fix, you know, our jobs as caretakers and as caring people, we want to support other people's well-being. And there's a really interesting phenomena that I don't think we grow up recognizing and really learning how to manage. I can't, but it's very clear. If we take it into learning, I always tell my students, the first thing is, I'm so happy you're here. I can't learn for you. I can't do your job. Your job is to learn. I can't do that for you. I can create the conditions. We can co-create the conditions for your learning, but you have to do your own learning. It's the same with our own self-care around our own emotions and our experiences. I can't live your emotional life for you. You have to live that. And somehow we get a little mixed up in thinking that I can force you to feel something or I can fix you so that you no longer feel something. And this, it comes out of a paradigm that involves blame. And so one of the things that we need to move away from is away from this blame. It's great to be responsible for things, but I can't blame you for my emotions. I can't say to you, Roxana, you started talking as I was talking and therefore I couldn't talk. And so I felt bad and that's your fault. Thank you, Roxana, for letting me use you as an example. My feelings in that, it's not Roxana's fault. When I feel something, it's because something inside of me is responding to a situation. And I need to learn to understand that. Maybe she speaks at the same time as me and I'm fine with that. But maybe she speaks at the same time as me and I feel bad because I feel like, oh, I really wanted to speak. And I also felt like I needed to give her the platform. And so I felt bad. But that's not her fault. She's just part of the context. But we need to learn to manage and understand what it takes, what it means to really, I want to say, take responsibility for my own emotional life and stop blaming people for it, so that we can together live situations where we're supporting each other's mutual well-being. So there's a fixing energy that is comes from a blame paradigm, and if we could shift that to a co-responsibility, and as long as I take care of myself enough, then I can show up and I can support you, but not fix you. I can support you. I can contribute to your well-being, but not fix it. So I hope that's, and that's probably a long answer, but that comes from that caretaker syndrome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We have an extra question, Ximena.
Yes,
On
we
the
have
chat?
Yes, Miss, thank you. We have another question here on the chat. It says, what neuroeducational strategies could facilitate higher education students to turn on the camera in the Zoom class session? How to reduce the stress caused in teachers that students do not turn on their cameras in class?
Okay, Robert.
Yeah, I'm going first. I guess if our kids, I teach kids like 12, 14, 15-year-old kids. I know it's quite hard for them to turn on the cameras. The first thing I could say is like, we cannot like force them to turn on the cameras because we don't know what's happening in their surroundings. We don't know what's happening in their environment. I'm not sure I understand the question about neuroscience and having the cameras on. I guess it has to do with how much stress the kid is having at the right moment. This reminds me of how, for example, emotional neglect in the childhood is also correlated with how emotional, how stressful we can be at larger stages. So I think if I have like a 15-year-old kid who does not want to turn on the camera, I guess I should ask them why in private. I should go to the psychologist and see what's happening there. Maybe there's something going on. It's like if we have like this learning outcomes thing, like in the middle, there's other factors that are, like that contribute to the betterment of education, such as health, ability, even nutrition, motivation, and lots of things, teaching materials, teacher skills. So I would ask the psychologist first. Ms. Magali.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mary.
Although I don't know, Roxana, did you want to go too? Okay. So for me, before going to the neuro experience, I would start out with a social experience, and I would focus on two things: belonging and meaningfulness. So when we develop a sense of belonging in the classroom, when people feel like they belong, and again, this is a social experience. As a teacher, I need to think about what activities can I do, what ways of being can I do that cultivate this sense of belonging and welcomeness. And then when it's meaningful. So usually when it's meaningful, they'll get their cameras on. We've been playing around a lot with this the last year and a half, and it's been very interesting to see that when people feel a sense of like that it's either the conversation, the activity, when it really it's something that connects with their heart and their purpose in life, then they can turn it on more. If I go into the neurological part, I start to think of like, how can I create a game where they have to turn on their cameras as part of the game? And so then that activates other parts of their brain. But in order for us to play that game, we still need to feel like we belong, and we need to feel like it's meaningful. So I would look to the social part first.
Mrs. Roxana Perca.
I just want to add that we need to consider the social economical context. In my case, I haven't seen my students for 2 years because while I teach in a kind of remote area, so technology rural area. So technology is a problem. Not everybody has a good equipment or cell phone with a camera or a laptop with a camera. So we need to understand that when we go back to school, change will be different. Things will be different. Thank you, Magali.
Okay, but at this point, something that I like to add is that we have to focus on emotional intelligence instead of developing too much academic intelligence, because we are in a different context that is remote teaching, okay? This is something that we have to keep in mind, okay? Ximena, next question, please.
Yes. Sometimes it is kind of challenging talking to parents. How can we approach meetings with parents who are now dealing with many things?
Who wants to give an answer for this? Okay, Robert.
Yeah, I would say it's quite challenging to deal with the parents, especially for whose kids are somehow struggling, not only in English, but in quite different areas. I guess the support of the psychologist, again, is super important. We should have like regular conversations. I know it's hard sometimes because we teach in different contexts. In some contexts, we have like emails, even institutional emails, like we have cell phones that we can communicate with them. I'm thinking about some other teachers who do not have these resources to communicate with the parent. So if the kid is struggling, do we have to prioritize the academic thing, or do we have to like stop and then talk to the parents or talk to someone or even the guardians? We don't know who's in charge of these kids. So talking to them should be of the essence first.
Okay, Roxana.
My connection or my communication with parents is not through meetings because I am not a tutor. So the tutor is in charge of this
Homework teacher, yeah.
But what I do is call them, and first to start the communication, I ask them about their children's health. No, I start a communication with questions that concern or about their children's health, feelings. So I connect with the parents, and then I start to talk about their academic performance, or if they are they attend classes or not. So first, I think that to start the communication with good questions to connect first is important. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Roxana.
Okay, thank you. And now we have another question. It says, we teachers have a lot of responsibilities, including our classes. We are supporters, caretakers, and so on. My question is why parents are not mentioned in this great responsibility of their children's mental health.
Okay, Mary.
I don't know.
No, you don't know.
I don't know why parents aren't mentioned. I'm not quite sure exactly what you're referring to. But I love what's behind what you're referring to. And the idea is we're all in this together. How can we create, I would sort of switch the question to how can we create opportunities for parents to also learn about mental health? Because I think that a lot of times parents are busy and running around and doing the best they can with the conditions that they have. And they might not have learned about mental health, emotional health, and they might not have the capacity. They might also, if they do know about it, how can we bring them in so they can share their wisdom? But also, how can we create opportunities for them to learn? And how can we create a sense of team collaboration with parents, as opposed to us blaming parents or parents blaming us? Like, we got to take the blame piece out of our world and just think about how can we work together given the context and the situation that we have and the needs that we have. And the first thing I think we need to do with parents is empathize. We want them to empathize with us, and we need to empathize with them. So to me, it's empathy, 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 and a little more empathy. And then some mindfulness.
Okay. Thank you very much to all my speakers. Sorry, we have an extra. The issue of turning. The trouble is in the public institutions where we have to deal with the topic. Okay, here we have a comment from one of our participants. The issue of turning the camera on is easily solved in private institutions because they put it in a dogmatic way. The trouble is in public institutions where we have to deal with topics like privacy and intimate. This must be in the rules or core or code of living together. Thank you very much, Mr. Carranza. Okay, now we're going to move to the final part of this round table, and all of you have 3 minutes for the final thoughts. Okay, we're going to start with Mrs. Roxana Perca, then Mr. Robert Carvajal, and finally Mary Shaw.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to add that the strategies we present are part of a teacher practice. They are not new, but important to deal with emotions and promote a good environment. The return to school will be challenged, but we can do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Roxana. Robert, it's your turn.
Thank you, Ms. Magali. I would like to drop these lines to celebrate all the hard work teachers have been doing during this pandemic. I know that most of us have actually bonded with the students. We got to know them even more. Home teachers, but also teachers as well. Mental health is super important. I guess these social factors have to be taken into great consideration. I would like to cite something from Within et al. 2021. They say that too much stress or stress at the wrong time may inhibit learning. So I guess we as teachers have to know when exactly to act or when exactly to provide certain activities in the classroom. We know that there's a great variability in individual differences, especially in the perception of stress. And we are on the verge of going back to school in March 2021. So being aware of these activities we said in the classroom and being aware of the classroom environment can make such a great difference on the students' emotions and well-being. So taking them into great consideration, we can actually meet the kids' needs, and definitely we can maximize their potential to the fullest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robert Carvajal. Thank you. Mary?
I would like to just finish up with a poem, if I can. I think that we have so much that we could say and do. But I want to, a lot of it is doing it, but I'd like to offer you a poem, and I'll send you the text. in the chat. It's called the invitation. And I'm going to send it in 2 chat because it's a little bit long for just 1 chat usually. I'm going to send you the text so that, oh wait, that's too long too, hold on. I'm going to send you the text so that in case you prefer reading.
Okay.
Hold on. Called The Invitation. It's by a Canadian poet named Araya Mountain Dreamer. And it's one that I try and remember when I go into my classrooms. Send the rest of it in a minute. Actually, let me finish sending it first. Having a hard time copying and pasting. That's my big teaching challenge. Okay. And okay. This is my poem for you as my closing. The Invitation by Araya Mountain Dreamer. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dreams, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or yours. If you can dance with the wildness and let ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful. Be realistic, or to remember of the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you're telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it's not pretty every day. And if you can source your life from God's presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand on the edge of a lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes! It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after a night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done for the children. Doesn't interest me who you are, how you came here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where, what, or with whom you've studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. And I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. I think if we can give this power of seeing beauty, even when it's not pretty, sourcing our life from God's presence, being able to live with pain and be present to that. Those are the skills that we need to be able to do as a teacher, especially in the pandemic, especially when we're working online. And it's a step-by-step process. It's a community process. It's a social process. And I really appreciate being able to be with you all today. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you very much to our great speakers this morning, okay? And I wanted to highlight an important issue. it is important to teach kids, okay, self-care skills, because when they are teenagers, they can cope with the challenges they have to face, okay? Thank you very much, Mrs. Roxana Perca, Mr. Robert Carvajal, and Mary Shaw, for this great experience we have to share with you this morning, okay? Thank you very much. Now, Ximena, please.
Yes, thank you so much. And I would like to remind our participants to fill out the attendance form that is on the chat. There you will be able to find the link.
And now, I cordially invite Villasar and Aileen to continue with this event. Thank you very much once again. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
We thank Ms. Magali Ruas, Ximena Castro, and each of the specialists of today's panel. Now, before moving to the workshops, we have an important announcement. At the end of the workshops, you have to complete the attendance form that you will find in the chat box.
After completing your attendance, we're going to see us in the plenary at 11:30.
Now, let's meet today's speakers. Okay, just a minute, please, to see the presentation. All right. For room number 1, from Nuevas Técnicas Educativas, NUTESA, Patricia Medina. She joined the team of senior academic consultants at NUTESA over 14 years ago. She is an English teacher for over 36 years, graduated in foreign language teaching from Villarreal University, proven experience in teaching language in the world of ELT and EFL in important schools and universities in Lima. Her areas of expertise are classroom management, effective teaching practices in the content area, and soft skill management in the classroom.
For room number 2, Sandra Masuelos, National Consultant. She is a highly experienced professional in various fields of education. She's an expert in teacher development and has more than 25 years of experience teaching English as foreign language. As a consultant, Sandra has designed face-to-face and online courses, synchronous and asynchronous, managed projects for prestigious publishing houses, advised specialty theses, and designed guides and materials for Minedo. And she was the academic director of the language school of a renowned private university.
And for room number 3, from Macmillan Education Peru, Sofia Gomez. She is the current Academic Services Coordinator for Macmillan Education Colombia, with more than 15 years of experience in the ELT and ICT field. Sofia holds a bachelor's degree in English language teaching from Universidad Industrial de Santander and a master's degree in education and ICT from Universitat Oberta de Catalunya, with major in e-learning. She also holds multiple international certifications, such as TFL and TESOL, teaching by Global Language Training in London, and ICT competencies by Kuhn and Colnodo.
Now, we are going to move to our respective rooms. How are we going to do this, Aileen?
Well, we will see a chart on our screens. Then we have to click on the room that has the name of the workshop that we have chosen at the moment of registration. And that's all.
Great. To the ones who follow us on YouTube, we ask you to stay online to watch the transmission of one of the workshops. The rest of them will be recorded and published on the platform later. All right, see you there.
Don Julio, ¿me escuchas?
Because the language we use to talk about our emotions changes, our relationship expands. So when you start asking yourself, you stop this autopilot. Because sometimes we have feelings all the time, and we don't stop and we don't
Hola, Juan, ¿me escuchas? Hola, hola, hola.
And for us, is the right balance between all your emotions and merging learning reality. Well, sometimes
Hola Juan Julio, ¿me escuchas? Hola, buenos días. Hola Juan Julio, ¿cómo me escuchas ahora?
Well, I didn't finish yet, so I don't know.
Me neither.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
know
yeah,
what to
I was
do.
taken to the main session too.
Yes,
Yeah,
so
yes,
we,
I am in the main session, but I don't know what happens because I have just
they just stopped the,
oh,
yeah, I could finish.
And I think we can go back because their rooms are still open.
yeah, I don't know if we can return because I was
And
just
let
getting to the end.
me recreate.
Let me organize this in a few seconds, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
A question, please. Is the same room, right? Room number 1, the ones we were working with, 21st Century School, right?
Yes.
I think now the rooms are available.
I don't know if we can return to.
Mrs. Medina and Mrs. Gomez, you are going to have extra 3 more minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We are just getting to the end.
Miguel. Él ha visto, él cuando me supervisó, él ha visto cosas.
We cordially invite you to have a recess until 11:50. Okay? Thank you very much.
Welcome back. Now we have good news for the ones who are in this event. British Council has brought us 5 scholarships for the Regional Conference BBEOT, Best and Brightest of English Language Teaching, on February the 18th and 19th, 2022. The conference title is Connecting Teachers, Empowering Learners. BBEOT conference is one of the main events in English teaching around America. Thank you very much, British Council.
So, right away, we proceed to do the raffle for the 5 scholarships. So we will present our screen. Please just give us a couple of minutes. Okay, just to remind everyone that this event is taking place on February the 18th and 19th, 2022. So are you ready? Okay, as you can see, there are the names of every participant. So at the count of 3, we will see who the winners are. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we are waiting for the winners. All right, and the first winner is Karin Evelyn Ayona Chávez.
The second winner is Claudia Wiltrago.
The third winner is Angie Lisbeth Rodríguez Lazo.
The fourth winner is Leticia Leslie Guerra.
And the fifth winner, and the last one, Terry Estuar Ventura Martinez.
Congratulations to the winners. Further Studies Unit will send you an email to coordinate your registration.
All right, now we invite Ms. Magali Ruas one more time to express our gratitude to the specialists of this second and last day of the ELT Congress 2021 Lima edition.
Hello again. I really wanted to thank to our participants from all over Peru and from abroad. Ximena, it's your turn.
Thank you, Miss. Yes, we would like to thank teachers from Lima, Lima Metropolitana, Huamanga, Barranca, Cajabamba, Cundinamarca, Cusco, Ica, and Chincha. Thank you for being here.
At the same time, I really want to thank teachers from Puno, Lambayeque, Chiclayo, Huancavelica, Satipo, teachers also from University from different universities such as Universidad Agraria La Molina, Universidad San Cristóbal de Huamanga in Ayacucho, Universidad Nacional de Trujillo, teachers from Ancash, Santa, Huaraz, Yungay, at the same time teachers from Junín region, teachers from Huancayo, Chanchamayo, Tarma, Oxapampa, teachers from Trujillo, teachers from Piura region, Paita, Sechura, teachers from Moquegua region, teachers from Hilo, teachers from Puno, Yunguyo, thank you very much for being here. Teachers from San Martin region, thank you very much for participating in this event. Teachers from Tacna, thank you very much. And a special thank to teachers from abroad, teachers from Chile, teachers from Mexico, thank you very much for being here. Teachers from Colombia, thank you very much. Teachers from Ecuador, thank you very much. Teachers from Venezuela, thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for being here and being part of this third ELT Congress, Managing Emotions in Time of Remote Teaching. Eileen and Villazar, could you please continue with this event? Thank you very much. Thank you to our teachers from Arequipa too.
We thank Ms. Magali Ruas and Ximena Castro for their work. To continue with the program, just to let you know that to get your certificate, you must have attended all the sessions and completed the following form. If you haven't completed yet, please do it now. Thank you.
Thank you for the reminder, Aileen. Now, for the last presentation, we invite the coordinator of the English area, Mrs. Karen Mesa, and Mr. Fernando Guamani, an English specialist from Minedo. Welcome, Mrs. Karen Mesa and Mr. Fernando Guamani.
Hello. Hi. Hello again. Good morning, almost afternoon. Hello, Magali. Hello, everybody else.
Hello, Mrs. Mesa. It's a pleasure and an honor for us to have you at the end of this Congress. Mrs. Mesa and Mrs. Fernando Guamani, Mrs. Mesa is going to talk about how ready is the school community to keep going. So you can start, Ms. Mesa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, again, I'm honored to be here and I'm going to share this presentation with my colleague, Fernando Guamani. He's just joined the English area at the Ministry of Education. So welcome, Fernando.
Hi, Karen. Hello, everyone. Yes. Hi, Karen. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this invitation. I'm really honored to be here this morning, and actually, I'm very deeply honored for this invitation given. And I do consider that this space is so important for every teacher who strives to do the best.
Certainly this. So let's start. So the question is, I'm going to start presenting. One second, please. Yeah, hope you can see my, yes, there it is.
Yes, Ms. Mesa.
Great. So we're going to try to answer the question, how ready is the school community to keep going? Yesterday and today, we've been all talking about emotions. I've been reflecting a lot about this, and thank you very much, Pedagógico de Monterrico, for doing this. Because in the world, right now, so many topics are being discussed. One of them being COP 20 or 24, that is happening in Glasgow. And they're talking about climate change and everything that the governments can do. I think there will be a time when we will have these international summits to talk about emotions. And that's why I really thank Pedagógico de Monterrico probably to be one of the pioneers in Peru to talk about how we're feeling. But how ready are we to keep going? It is good to remember that we have all been through all these feelings, no? Feelings of sadness, of anger, frustration, and many other feelings because of the context we've been through. And time for us may have seemed to be very slow because our motivation was being affected by how we felt. I'm going to ask Fernando, how you felt, Fernando, during this time as a teacher in remote teaching and learning?
Regarding your question, as a teacher, as a teacher, actually, I felt a lot of pressure. I encountered different difficulties in terms of planning, organizing my time, combining being at home and teaching at the same time. I sometimes I feel frustrated because I want to do something because we have a mentality before the pandemic, we have different, but now we are adjusted. I think there's not, I thought there's no time for me, but in the process, I learned a lot how to handle the time, how to handle, my lesson planning, how to be more organized. So I feel like more confidence in terms of technology, for instance.
Mm-hmm. So as you can hear, and Fernando has a very positive attitude towards everything he has been through. Although his feelings have been affected by frustration, he has found the light, he has seen the light because he feels he's learned a lot. And I'm sure that most of you feel the same way. And this very same event may not be happening had we not the teachers sharing their experiences. That's why we had Sandra Mazuelos, Patricia Almendro, Julio Valladares, Patricia Medina, Kevin Laura, Sofía Gómez, Ofelia Milagro o Villegas, Mary Skoll, Violeta Tenorio, Robert Carvajal, and Roxana Perca. They are all teachers. They all have different roles in the education system. And I'm sure they may have felt different feelings during these times, but also see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's why Fernando also says what he said. And I'm sure you do too. So our motivation is very important. Let's keep that going. And we should again remember that the students are in the center of the process of education. That's why we became teachers, because we wanted to help. And students were the most affected. They were the most vulnerable. We all recognize that during the pandemic and during this distance education, and that families had a huge role in how our students were feeling and how they were dealing with their emotions, and how they were also keep their education going. And that's why I think we now understand better the impact of what the student lives at home. The pandemic, in a way, has been very rough on us, but we have also learned quite a lot. And this is one of the lessons, I think, that we feel we need to connect probably much more with students through their families so that we know what's happening at home and how that affects their learning. Being the students in the center of our call, of our purpose, we have had teachers who responded, and that is all of you. All of you responded to this challenge of keep our education going. And that has been stressful, definitely, but you did it. You were in the front line and you were doing all of these activities. Yesterday, I talked about some of them, and here I have summarized them. We had to learn to plan. We already knew it, but we did it in a different way. We had to create materials in a different way. We learned new skills, as Fernando said, track students and families, assess our students formatively to see how they were progressing in their learning. We were reporting to our directors, we were counseling students, and many other activities that teachers had to do in order to support the students. And we had these professional concerns because we didn't know whether all of these activities that are enlisted were having the impact we wanted. Were they well perceived or were they not working? So because this was such a challenging context, we were like testing, doing, redoing, planning, replanning, and learning in the process. But we had these concerns that made us feel, again, different emotions. There were also personal concerns, and I'm going to let Fernando talk about that. Just one little thing, Fernando, that I'd like to say first is that if we care, we learned another lesson is that if we care about education, we should care about health. And our mental health is really important, and we have to learn to deal with it. So, Fernando, how, in your experience, before we move on, which of these activities did you find the most challenging during distant education?
Wow, which most? All right. Well, I think the most challenging has been planning our lessons, because it is the most difficult challenge, because we have to adapt to the needs of our students and to keep in mind their different contexts. I mean, when we plan our lessons, we have to focus on the competency they have to get. We have to think about how our students feel and how they are progressing in their learning. So basically, we teachers have to prepare ourselves to be motivated and not transmit our stress to our students. On the other hand, students, I mean, should not receive any strength from our part, but the students should only receive our whole process as a world-class educator. So the students, in a very short time, they will value what we do. They will respect our professions. Our students are the present of our country, whether they are on the coast or they are in the highland or they are in the jungle, but they are our purpose. They are the center, and it is for them that we study this career. So the most difficult challenge is it has been to plan our lessons according to every student's needs.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Fernando. And which one do you think was the easiest for you, the one that you adapted very quickly to?
I think the easiest was learning new skills, because in this context, being at home, being with family, you know, it was a great new opportunity to know that we have new skills at home. I mean, I'm talking about, I mean, all the family, because parents have the chance to talk to their kids more, you know, teachers have the time to reflect also on their teaching style. I mean, it was a great opportunity for everyone, for every individual at home. So I think learning new skills was the easiest.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Fernando.
Indeed.
So I'm sure some of you will identify different activities and probably many more that you found very challenging or that you found very easy to adapt to. But we should bear in mind that a teacher is also a parent. Fernando, can you tell us a bit more about this?
Absolutely, indeed. Well, when it comes to helping us, I mean, helping our students, we have to balance everything, right? We have to balance from a perspective of a teacher. For example, one of them that would be advisable is to encourage parents in the benefits of activities like, you know, like cooking together at home, maybe with their children, or playing some board games, or having some daily walks together, like cleaning the house at the same time, maybe reading favorite stories, eating together, maybe walking the dog to the closest park, you know, having time, valuable time that will never come back. So I do think also that there is a great learning time. There is a great learning in all of these activities, and many families have more time to do. You know, what I believe also is that when we as teachers, we are actually the voice of encouragement, right? Because if your students listen to you, you're so down, you're blue like this, you know? So how can you encourage your students? So we are the voice of encouragement because this has benefits. For instance, most importantly, and during this context, right, has been for some people a moment where they encounter themselves. Some of them maybe they encounter, some students encounter themselves like helpless, but I think some of them encounter a new sense of spirituality, for instance, right? Then I do think that it has been amazing to see how teachers are every time more empowered. I'm very glad that teachers has been going, right? They were having going to a different support, especially for their students and how they are continuing their learning process. I do think that moving from one distance, I mean, from a face-to-face classes, moving to a distant learning for some, or online learning, this format has been new for many of us, right? So I think that technology has been a blessing during this difficult time, because this has been the opportunity to share information, learning with the students how to work different apps. For instance, I do a lot of apps in my classroom, but I know that we have also the distance learning and online learning. So I think that everything we do, it's basically because we have our students in mind, right? Remember, they are learning a new language. They're not native speakers. They're students with different reality, with different necessity. They have different, needs, right? So as you look, when you are connected with your students, I mean, when you are connected with your students, it's either by phone, or by having some meeting online, but many questions arise. For instance, me as a teacher, what pieces of advice can give to the students or parents? I mean, it's obvious, right? It's obvious that there are parents that don't know what's going on in their, I mean, I think that it was obvious now that parents don't know how to handle the student because they are not teachers, So one thing is to encourage parents, right? That if they have any questions regarding the topic they are doing, parents can call, right? You can interact now more often with parents. In that way, we are reaching out all the necessity, because it's not only the students, but also parents, because they have a lot of parents, they have some questions. I mean, plus, parents at home, they have to deal with, with their kids at home, if they are doing, their activities. It's a really, really difficult context. So what I mean is, most parents have no background. They have no background in teaching. So they need a lot of support. So number one, let's focus also on the parents. Additionally, we have to focus ourselves on how to manage being alone at home. I mean, how you can handle loneliness, right? Especially for some teachers that have kids at home, right? I mean, because, they have kids at home, but they are, let's say, single parents, so they're single parents. I mean, they have their kid at home and they have to work, at the same time. It's really hard. And I'm totally sure some of you are single parents, so you understand this concept. So for instance, let's say being a single parent can be a very lovely time because you're with your kids, but also it's a stressing time because you have to handle working, and being with the kids at the same time. So I think working to meet your child's needs is very important because we have to focus on them. because I mean, they have to eat on time, you know, they have to wake up, they have to shower. I mean, our kids have to, you know, be on time in the classes, prepare their material, and plus at the same time, you as a teacher, you have to, you know, prepare your lessons, be in contact, making some phone calls, either if you have the plan in your school, like, because I know that there are different techniques how teachers are dealing with this new context, because some of them are using they're using technology 100%, some of them are using 50-50, and some of them are only distance learning, you know, but still there is a constant phone calling, there's constant meeting with our students. So one solution for this question, right, can be talking on phone. I mean, talking on phone, if you're a single parent, for instance, talking on phone and calling other single parent where you can support, hey, what happened to me? You know, there's an issue here. Maybe in that way, promoting this way of phone calling can help a lot. Now, from the perspective of a child, right, the child needs a lot of attention. I mean, the child don't care if you're working or not. Your father is your father, your mother, your father, and that's it. So, but there's one thing that is going on nowadays, because for teachers that have children at this moment, they have to consume all the time, all the activity, all the energy toward the classes. And sometimes you have to work with the kids at the same time. So I think the only recommendation would be focus on your child or focus on your work, because doing two things at the same time, it will not be the same. And remember, kids are growing so fast, right? And sometimes they become so frustrated because the attention is only working with the students, and sometimes we forget our kids at home. So that's one thing, that's one perspective from being a teacher, father, teacher, a mother. So then how we can keep motivating our kids in our lessons? How? I know kids are so tired nowadays. I mean, they have to present the evidence, and the evidence have to present the evidence, So let's think about also when we are preparing our lessons. I mean, we are professionals, of course, but please, let's think from the perspective of the students, how they feel. Let's think before preparing our lessons. We know we have to work on competencies. Some schools abroad may be working, only on objective, but when we are working on competencies, we have to think about what they're going to achieve during our first, second, third units. But most importantly, when it comes to planning, I do think that let's think as a child when we prepare. If this material I'm preparing for my student is at the level, it's of course, it has a standard of A1, B2s, but most importantly, they think as a child when we are preparing, because they are going to be sometimes alone and there's no teacher next to them. So that's it. I think one more important thing in this difficult context is to be very grateful what we are doing. Let's be grateful for everything we do. Let's be grateful for we wake up in the morning, we're just alive. We can do many things. Some of us are blessed because we have a job, Let's be grateful for everything. And I do think that that's the beginning of many good things to come. So to sum up, this context has been difficult for some of us, but most importantly, remember, you are the voice of the message for the students, because the closest person they have is you. The closest person they have is you. So please, just to sum up, let's think about them. They are our priority now. Let's think about how we can build a contact with family, community, the kids. So thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you, Fernando. Thank you. I think you may have summarized what most teachers that are watching, that are present here, have experienced. So you have talked about everything about how the teacher was was dealing with students' emotions, and how parents are now going to be also important in that role of learning. And that will not change. For example, that's a very good lesson we have learned in this time. So when we go back to face-to-face, we should not lose that. And we should not lose the perspective that also teachers have been helping teachers. In virtuality, that's what has happened. In distance education, that's what has happened. So when we go back to face-to-face education, that should continue happening. Communities of practice, communities of learning, whatever you want to call them, are very important. In the Ministry of Education, we have started communities of practice for teachers of English. And we have leaders all over Peru that have been trained, that have been receiving assistance by Rilo Andes, so they can start communities of learning all over Peru. You may be hearing from them already on social media, but I'm sure you will hear more about them shortly. The regions are also involved there, so I advise you to look for those communities of practice that are in your region for teachers of English. Let's not forget that we have leaders also in the school, and though that's the role of the director. How a school goes sometimes has a lot, not sometimes, I think it's also connected to how leadership is developed in the school. And directors are playing an important role. Even their absence, if they are not, if they have not been able to cope with all the challenges we had, that may have also affected the school. And if they were successful, if they were trying, if they were also in the process of learning as we have all been, I'm sure the school has also felt and responded positively to the challenge. So let's not forget that a school community is inside a community as well. So we have a region, we have a country, we have a wider region, which is South America. So let's not forget that the school is inside a context, that whatever happens in a school, in the education system, has to do with the work of different sectors in the government. So the Minister of Health being now one of the most obvious, if they are the ones that are giving us guidelines on how to go back to school, for example, and the vaccines, no, and the vaccination process, how they were progressing is impacting on how or when we're going back to school, to face-to-face classes. Social inclusion, the Ministry of Social Inclusion, because we know that there are students whose parents have lost their jobs, or they've lost their parents, and they need to be assisted by the government. DUGEL, DRE, and Ministry of Education, they are doing the best they can in order to assist directors, to assist teachers to this come back to face-to-face classes. And I'm repeating this come back to face-to-face classes because that's the new challenge we will all face. The school community will be challenged to how we are going to safely go back to school. And our emotions, again, will be affected by that. I have to mention that the private sector has been really important also in helping teachers to be in the front line. And we hope that will continue happening. I remember that at the beginning, and you may all remember that in the first year, in 2020, when we had Aprende en Casa, for example, on television, all channels were broadcasting the Aprende en Casa programs because they understood that we wanted to reach and needed to reach all students. And there are other interventions that have helped in different regions, have helped the continuation of education. I'm going to present to you a video that in this case I have, this is uploaded in the Ministry of Education webpage. It's by Fundación Vice. We have worked with them, and I would like you to listen to it.
tiri iroa metantira. Atsonga tanta na chiarori, pikenke shiriaka yeri impoihi, pisanke nataka yeri poamerepe, iranta yeteri aisati imonkara yeteri isaiga heitanchari kametsa. Abame tantira arori, otimache aninta kayeri abamerepe maro ni abametiri. Iri pero tanchari yatiri te kametsa isaiga heitira aparope. Maro ni atiri pe abakerori kametsa abametakiriri ariyoi ni hantakero isaiga heitira inampiki aisati anampiki arori. Irotake no koako heitimpi pamena koperotero pikoa yetiri pimonkara yetiri. Obametansi kariya inzonkero iñanare. Irointia ora iriyote inzinan payetero kari pero yetatsiri areti motakariri yañantari. No pasonki heitimpi pantayetiro poame yetiri akara heitiri.
So, who understood? This is to remind us that Peru is a mix of cultures. We're rich. We're rich in the diversity of cultures, languages, ways of doing things, and let's not forget that we have different contexts inside Peru, and we need to also reach them because everybody has had their emotions affected. So how to keep going? We need to reach those people as well, to reach everybody in Peru so that they understand how to deal with emotions and we can help each other. So how to keep going? Motivation is key. As we started this presentation, we mentioned that roller coaster or that emotional roller coaster we've been through has affected our perception of time, has affected our motivation. But we have to recover that. We have to remember that we have objectives, personal objectives, professional objectives, and in a way that's the definition of motivation, how we are boosted in order to reach objectives, to reach goals. So in order to keep going, we need to remember those objectives we have, personal and professional. And how do we do that? If we reconnect with your call, as Fernando was explaining everything he's been through and he feels that can work, you could tell that he's a devoted teacher. And I'm sure all of you are devoted teachers. You are on a Saturday, you are participating in this webinar. It means you are looking for something. You want to do things better because you have that specific call for education to help others. You feel you can help others. So when we feel down in the dumps, when we are faced with challenge, so let's reconnect with that call. Why is it that we became educators? And one way of doing that is by remembering specific students you have impact on. You have impact probably because of a talk, probably because of them, something they told you as well. So it's important to remember the faces of those students you have impacted throughout your career. And then focus on one, just one, and write it down on a paper. Write down the story of that student, what he was like or she was like, and how you played a role in that. Be very specific. That is going to help you. Be very specific about that student. In that way, you are going to value your role in the impact you had on this person. We need to revalue sometimes. When we feel that our motivation is too low, these steps can help you recover from that. Recognize that as a teacher, you can impact many others. You have impacted on those students, you remember one in specific, and also you have the potential to impact on many others throughout your career in different ways. So let's keep going, because you as teachers, you are the cornerstone of this education system. You are in the front line. As the Minister of Education, we have created this space for teachers, the Escucho Docente, that is the website. And there you will find the video that you've just watched is in Ashaninka. And in that video, they were explaining what I just told you, how to recover motivation. And we will find videos like this in Aymara, Quechua, Shipibo. You will also find support on how to deal with grief, anxiety, and stress, what your family should do if something happens to you. Sometimes that paperwork is hard to understand, and we can offer help with that as well. There is a direct line, there is a phone line. You only have to fill in a small form with specific data that we need in order to contact you, and a psychologist can contact you so that you receive that support. And we also give advice on how to act in case of violence. So please visit this website if you feel this can help you deal with your emotions. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Karen Mesa and Mr. Fernando Guamani, for sharing with us your knowledge and reflections about managing emotions in times of remote teaching in the third ELT Congress.
Now it is time for the closing ceremony, and we cordially invite Mrs. Karen Mesa to do it.
Mrs. Mesa, could you please activate your microphone?
I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Magali. Thank you. On behalf of the Secondary Education Office, I'm going to declare that this third ELT conference, Managing Emotions in Times of Remote Teaching, has finalized.
Thank you, Mrs. Mesa, for your words. We are getting to the end of this Congress, but before receiving Mrs. Janet Zapata, we have to thank all the speakers and consultants who have participated during these 2 days. But a special thanks to the community of English teachers who have been connected.
It was a pleasure to take part in this magnificent event and accompany you. We hope to see you soon.
Now, let's proceed to the head of the Further Studies Unit, Mrs. Janet Zapata.
Muchas gracias, Aileen y Villazar. Un buen día a todos y a todas. Es imposible terminar este evento sin antes felicitar a cada uno de ustedes, queridos maestros de inglés de todo el Perú, y también de los países hermanos que nos acompañan. Felicitarlos primero por haber participado en este tercer Congreso para Docentes de Inglés, cuyo tema este año ha sido Gestionando las emociones en tiempos de enseñanza remota. Y segundo, felicitarlos porque al asistir a un evento académico como este, no solo evidencian tener un interés por su formación y desarrollo profesional, sino también por una enseñanza de calidad que favorezca el logro de la competencia lingüística, en este caso del inglés, en sus estudiantes. Muchas felicidades a cada uno. Permítanme además agradecer de forma especial a nuestros aliados, colaboradores y amigos de la Escuela Monterrico, sin cuyo apoyo la realización de este evento hubiera sido imposible. Gracias Minerum. Gracias British Council. Gracias Rilo Andes. Gracias Nuevas Técnicas Educativas NUTESA. Gracias Macmillan Education Perú. Gracias Pearson Education. Gracias Anglo Perú. Muchas gracias. Y a través de ustedes, gracias a sus excelentes ponentes que han participado tanto en las mesas de diálogo como en los talleres. Muchas gracias a cada uno. También agradezco de forma muy especial por su significativa ayuda con la difusión del evento a la comunidad de docentes de inglés, English Teachers in Perú, en la persona de su fundadora, la profesora Mariela Condorena. Muchas gracias. Pero permítanme también, por favor, agradecer a todo el equipo de Monterrico, sin cuyo compromiso esta actividad no hubiera sido un éxito. Muchas gracias, compañeros. Finalmente, permítanme compartirles, informarles con respecto a la entrega de las constancias de participación, que estas estarán siendo enviadas vía correo a partir del lunes 22 de noviembre. Esperamos que el evento haya sido de su satisfacción. Nos reencontraremos, Dios mediante, el próximo año, como ya es costumbre, en el mes de noviembre. Ahora, por favor, les pido a todos que prendan sus cámaras para tomarnos unas fotos y despedirnos. Muchas gracias, sigamos cuidándonos, nos vemos en noviembre del 2022. Un abrazo a todos. Por el chat están recibiendo saludos de felicitaciones nuestros ponentes. Muchas gracias, muchísimas gracias.
Agradecemos a los ponentes, monitores y a toda la comunidad por participar del siguiente evento. Procedemos a cerrar el encuentro y que todos tengan una buena tarde. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Hasta
Muchas
el próximo año.
gracias. Saludos desde Ecuador. Gracias.
Gracias, un abrazo fraterno.
Gracias.